What up, EJK here, and this is going to be a video about counterattacking. For those of you who don't know what counterattacking is, one of the common examples as a Terran player is when you go for a 3 command center build against a very standard Zerg player who opens up for speed, then gets Mutalisks, Banelings, gets a 4th base before 10 minutes, that kind of macro-based play. Some Zerg players will pre-position some Banelings and Zerglings at the side next to your 3rd base, so that when you move out with your first 6 Hellions and your 2 Medivacs, he's just going to go swoop in for a counterattack and explode all over your SCVs, and hopefully take a good economic advantage based on the fact that the bulk of your army was out of position trying to clear creep like it usually does. That's a predictable timing that if you can scout the build as a Zerg player, the 3 command center build, you know that the Medivacs are going to be out around 11 minutes and that the Terran player is going to want to start to be aggressive around that time as well. Another example is against Blink play. It's not that popular anymore, but when Polt first started doing this, and actually Polt does this a lot in the TvP matchup, he will do vicious counterattack drops with like I think it's only like 3 to 4 Medivacs. I don't think he goes above that. The reason being because he wants to have, like if he does some damage, he wants to and the Protoss tries to counterattack, he wants to have a portion of his army, not a bulk, because he wants the bulk of his army at the natural to defend, and he wants just a small portion of his army to do counterattack damage if the Protoss tries to retaliate. So having 3 to 4 Medivacs full of units when the Protoss tries to attack prevents the Protoss player from moving out onto the map and potentially killing you. Because in a straight up fight, a pure bio army normally doesn't beat a Colossi Deathball army, but when you have it split up and you are doing damage because you have units like right outside of the Protoss's main base and the Protoss is just way over here moving out to your side of the map, then you're going to do a lot of damage and the Protoss is in kind of a pickle. Another example, I guess I'll do one more, is it's a more simple one. It's when you Reaper expand and you scout Blink coming up. So if you go for a 3 racks transition, you usually have a lot of bio units, enough so that okay, so when you go for a 3 racks opening and you scout Blink, you're going to want to do a Marauder Marine push, sometimes with concussive shells, sometimes with combat shields, but it's a pretty common move to do that and try to force out a photon overcharge. Now against Blink play, when the Protoss player sends his Blink Stalkers across the map, one of the counterattack possibility moves that you can do is to position that small contingency army kind of outside of the Protoss's natural base, like maybe at his 3rd, maybe a bit farther away, but basically you want to hold the watchtower, so when you see the Protoss player moving out with his Blink Stalkers, then you can go in for a kind of like a mini counterattack with that small bio army while defending at home. And it works especially well against 2 base Blink all-ins when the Protoss player brings his Mothership Core. But the more common build that you might see on ladder is the macro transition, which gets 3 to 4 gateways with Blink, keeps the Mothership Core at home to stop those kinds of counterattacks, and to just do light harassment damage with your Blink Stalkers, and to potentially pick off some Medivacs and Vikings, and just generally be annoying and keep a tab on your army by being proactive with those Blink Stalkers. So this is actually going to be a TvT video between Gumiho and Byung. And the reason why I'm doing a video about this is because I think it illustrates perfectly the concept of counterattacking in a fresh example, if I may be so bold. Gumiho is not transitioning. He is opening up into a very standard build. Both players are going for gas first. I would say that's probably the most standard besides Reaper expands, and then it depends on some maps. Command center, like on Nimbus, might I'm not even gonna go there. Basically, both players are opening up gas first. Gumiho is gonna opt for the Marine Hellion poke that Polt popularized. I think he started bringing that out in one of the finals against I don't want to say it's Tasia at Red Bull Detroit. I'm pretty sure he did it in a Red Bull earlier on, again in a TvT finals. I'm not I can't remember exactly who he played against, but it's basically a Marine Hellion drop, okay? And it's the fastest possible one because you are getting your gas first. And Byung here is doing the mech opener that Flash created. I'm gonna say create because I didn't see it at all used before he started using it. Then as soon as he showed it in a game or two, then everyone starts using it. So I'm going to say that Flash created and popularized. So what that consists of is making a Marine, making a Reaper to scout, and then getting a couple Hellions, building the tech lab on the barracks instead of the factory, and it's just generally a safe mech opener that you can, that gives you a lot of versatility and flexibility with how you open, gaining scouting information, and how you can defend different kinds of pushes. So, two very, what I would call meta builds. Yeah, I guess they're in the meta currently. If you play like 1 out of 3 TvTs, chances are you are going to see one of these builds. I think the probability is a little bit lower if you have this specific situation or scenario, but it can happen because both of these builds are pretty popular right now in the TvT matchup. So with that in mind, since these builds don't have any special hidden cards up their sleeves, both players kind of have a good idea of what timings that are going to come out of these builds. And by that I mean Byung knows that Gumiho is gonna as soon as he scouts this, he doesn't scout it right away. This first Hellion is ambiguous and tells absolutely nothing. It does lean towards a fast factory play, but you cannot be 100%. Actually, I think you can be 100% certain. Seeing that Hellion out fast enough and seeing just one Hellion means that the factory timing is pretty fast. So, he does know that it is either going to be Cloak Banshees, the build that Byung is doing, or a Marine Hellion drop. So he knows that if it is in fact a Marine Hellion drop, which he's going to scout in a little bit, seeing those Marines in the medevac, he knows that it's going to hit his base at around the 630 mark. Very, very fast, very, very powerful with, I believe, 7 to 8 Marines and 3 Hellions. And you can also add a Widow Mine in there too if you want and have less Hellions. There's a lot of different variations, but the main timing is that it will hit at about the 630 mark depending on what map you're playing on. So, Gumiho, on the other hand, knows that since Byung has that Reaper and that Hellion, that combination of units being used to scout means that he has a good idea of what Byung is doing as well, seeing that early Hellion come out after that Reaper. Because normally if you make a Reaper, you'll either have a reactor and then you'll make 2 Hellions at once, or you'll make 2 Reapers and then 2 Hellions. This little kind of move out right here is based on the fact that Byung knows what Gumiho is doing now, so he knows that this is the very standard 3 Hellion Marine medevac drop, and what this means is that the Terran player is going to run his Hellions up to the main base while dropping the Marines in another location to pull your army apart. So what Byung smartly does here is he intercepts these 3 Hellions before Gumiho has a chance to drop his Marines, splitting Gumiho's army up instead of having to fight with his army, Byung's units split up. So very smart move here, and as a result, he gains 2 Hellion kills for the price of some scrap metal damage and some Reaper hit points. So Gumiho's not in a really good position right now. He drops his medevac just to get a couple SCV kills. He ends up getting 1 and damaging 2 others before boosting out of there. He knows he can't stay that long. He doesn't have much of an army to fight. Now, what I like to see, or what I like here, is that Gumiho has his medevac repositioned to for the counterattack possibility right now. So the main point of this video is pretty much this point. As a Gumiho, you have a couple options. You can either keep your medevac over here like what he did, or you can bring your medevac back because you know that after taking an unfavorable engagement, it's a very good possibility that the Terran player, Byung, might do a counterattack. So Byung is doing actually Byung's not doing a counterattack. He's doing a timing attack because of the wind. He has a timing window right now where he can do damage because he was able to kill 2 Hellions for free and he only lost 1 SCV. And Gumiho, on the other hand, he's going to be kind of behind in army supply because he didn't take that good engagement. So you either can bring your medevac back and have the Marines for defense at your natural, or what Gumiho chooses to do is have his Marines positioned for a nice little counterattack. And not only can it be used as a counterattack, it can be used as scouting information as well too, just boosting your medevac and kind of check around for the scouting composition, see if the other player's going for Banshees, making more Vikings, making some medevacs, making siege tanks, more Marines, etc., etc., making another command center. So it can be used as scouting information as well. Okay, so what's happening right now is Byung is simply doing his little timing attack, and we see all of his units going across the map right now. He thinks he's safe. He is right. This is a good timing to hit. At home, we see Gumiho. He only has 3 Hellions and a Viking. Against Byung's I think he's like 5 Hellions, a Reaper, a Viking, and a Raven with PDD. So as soon as Gumiho sees that, or as soon as Byung pokes in, we notice on the minimap that Gumiho is sending his dropship to the natural. Notice how he sends it to the natural and not to the main. He doesn't know what defense Byung has, so he simply wants to check for a natural command center right now. That's this kind of scouting information that this counterattack is accomplishing. And he sees the command center, so he knows what Byung is doing 100%. So now all Gumiho has to do is really hold this. And his command center is already done too. That's one of the perks of doing this Marine Hellion opener, is that you can build this command center earlier. These 2 Hellions pop out so that Gumiho isn't going to take a completely bad engagement. He was able to take a little bit of extra, or he was able to dish out a little bit extra damage against Byung's army because Byung had like 5 Hellions lined up, and Gumiho's 2 Hellions came down the ramp and just was able to shoot all of those with 2 volleys from those 2 Hellions, and that really made a big difference in being able to hold off the push at home. But now we see this little counterattack drop. So after it scouts that there's nothing in the natural to defend that command center, Byung is forced to cancel it, and now Gumiho is just going to go drop into the main and continue doing counterattack damage. Now we see Byung, he has a couple Hellions and a Banshee about to pop up, but Gumiho, Byung has nothing to stop Gumiho's medevac, so Gumiho can do this as many times as he pleases. At home, we see that Gumiho is kind of stabilizing. He's slowly thinning out Byung's army. I would say it's more of kind of poor micro and Byung's lack of multitasking, being able to kind of micro those Marines, and then he loses those Hellions. If he was able to keep those Hellions alive and then fight in range of the auto turret instead of putting the auto turret down after the Hellions died, he would have been able to continue dealing damage. But he was not able to, and now Gumiho, with his superior multitasking, is getting the better end of this trade simply because he was able to kind of keep track of what his Marines were doing more efficiently than how Byung was able to on both sides. So I think Gumiho just came out ahead based on superior multitasking. Oh, that and the fact that Byung sends his Banshee. I don't believe that Banshee was used to clean up the Marine drop. I might be off, but based on the timing of that Banshee being over here, I think you just send it straight across. So that might have been a bit of another mistake by Byung. Maybe multitasking because the rally point was set towards the natural, or he simply thought he would be able to win in a base trade situation. Not 100% sure there. So anyways, we see that Gumiho is able to kind of stabilize already, and he still has his little medevac drop out on the map with 4 Marines. Gonna be able to do a lot of damage here. Forcing out 2 scans with that Cloak Banshee is Byung, But he's going to have to do a lot more damage than that because he is currently down by 12 supply, and most of that is SCVs, and he doesn't have a natural command center going. So that little counterattack by Gumiho has forced Byung into an all-in position with one base Hellion Banshee. Not a very good spot to be in, and Byung realizes this. He knows that since he had to cancel his command center and that that Gumiho's was already done, he didn't really have another option. But like if he restarted his command center, he'd just be playing behind from a macro standpoint. But if he was going all in like this, well, this little counterattack drop is doing a lot of damage here. Byung just has no way of cleaning it up right away. He's making 2 Vikings, so he is going for this Hellion Banshee all in, and he's going to try to win with air superiority and auto turrets and Hellions on the ground versus Gumiho's Hellion count, but Gumiho just has a superior economy. He's already producing a siege tank, he has an excess of minerals, and he's going to be pretty prepared against this one base push. So when I said earlier, or this kind of reflects what I said earlier about being put into a more comfortable position by choosing this counterattack method, instead of simply sending his units home to defend. That counterattack was able to get a lot of damage done, and it can work pretty consistently as well because these builds are not tricky by all means. They have very set in stone timings that you can take advantage of, such as when the army moves out and the predictability of what the next couple of moves might be based on how much damage you deal, what you scout, etc., etc. So we see here, Gumiho, his economy is really taking off right now, up by almost 30 supply, and Byung is going for a YOLO all-in. Gumiho's still trying to do another counterattack because he knows all he has to do is defend. Unfortunately, Gumiho also has more Vikings than Byung, and GG is called. There really was no way that Byung was going to win that engagement. He simply was too far behind from the counterattack, and that was his last option. So that pretty much brings an end to this little video about counterattacks. Very nice little nifty timing, just keeping that medevac there. Something that all Terrans doing Byung's build should be aware of when counterattacking, so that maybe if Byung was more aware of that counterattack possibility, he did do a Banshee follow-up, so that was a little bit of a variation. So he was trying to be super aggressive, and he didn't have his mindset on defending against any possible counterattacks. But for the Marine Hellion player, it's very important to keep that medevac alive and to try to take as little Viking shots as possible. So that puts a longer timing on the counterattack possibility for the Terran player with the medevac drop. And you also don't want to lose it as well. It's so important. Even if you just, like what Gumiho did, if Byung was playing defensively, a good Terran player will fan out the Vikings in that area where the medevac boosted off to try to find that medevac and zone it out even further so that the counterattack possibility is even a less likely chance. But Byung was playing very aggressive by getting only 1 Viking and going into a Banshee follow-up. So, yeah, I still plan on trying to do another Flash video. I still have to watch the rest of his stream. There's a couple games at the end that I want to take a look at after I take a look at this IEM San Jose KR qualifier. So this will pretty much wrap up the video for now. If you guys have any games from maybe foreigner tournaments, I don't particularly like doing foreigner games because I think you learn a lot more from Korean play than foreigner play. Hopefully that's not being mean or anything, just trying to be realistic. But if you guys did see any fun foreigner games, I know there were a couple tournaments going on currently and throughout last week and this week, then feel free to leave a comment and remember to link the video and let me know about it so I can try to make a video of it. Alright, peace out.